All righty, welcome back to the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show. We are live from Ocean Casino. As you can see the big bar in the background. Not many people left. They were very disappointed tonight. Mike Missinelli, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, Devin Caney will join us a little bit later. John McMullen will join us a little bit later with game balls, all that stuff. It's time for our 2-minute drill. I'm going to hit these guys with some quick hitters. I got to get this off my chest because it's bugging me. After Goddard was stripped, they gave the Commanders life. But they stalled. And so here comes a 3rd down and 13, and the play gets all messed up to the point where there's illegal men downfield. So now it's 3rd and 18. They decline the penalty and let Joey Sly attempt a 55-yard field goal, which he makes to make it a 26-21 lead. Now the Eagles need a touchdown. My question is, why would you decline that penalty, and why would you not give him 3rd and 18, maybe a 3rd and 18 blitz there? Why the guy just kicked a 58-yarder? Why would you not? Why would you let him hit that field goal?
I don't get that. It just drove me nuts. I would have enforced the penalty, and if he's going to kick it, he hit a 58. You know what? Let me see you do it again. Yeah, I want to see you do it again.
That would have been 60.
Yes, I want to see now. Now, granted, the 58-yarder cleared the crossbar by at least 7-8 yards, okay? But still, the probability of him shanking it entail anything. I would have taken that risk more so than letting him have the 55-yarder. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I thought it was just academic football.
I think Nick Sirianni made that decision based upon the fact that the Washington Commanders were converting 3rd down conversions at 75 to 80%.
3rd and 18, Seth.
3rd and 18.
Listen,
Come
I
on,
don't care.
Seth. Come on, Seth.
Listen, if when you make that decision, you're basically saying that I don't trust my defense or my defensive coordinator to make the call that's necessary to get the stop.
Well, that's telling, isn't it? Isn't that telling?
Okay, well,
I mean,
I'm asking the question. What other reason would you not back him up?
I don't know why. That's
because what's going to happen? You either going to stop him. You either going to stop him on 3rd down, okay, and make him kick a 60-yarder,
right?
Or he's going to complete one for 10 to 12 yards,
right?
And he's still going to make the field goal.
Make an easier field.
So
however, he still has to throw that ball to do that.
I agree.
Exactly. I'm
not fighting against you. I'm just saying.
It was perplexing to me, that decision.
There's a way to kind of read into everything that happens and everything that's going on. And when you begin to read into that decision, you got to ask yourself, why would you not do that? I'd be really curious.
Yeah, I mean
that's one of the questions I want to ask John if he was at the press conference. I want to know, what was his response, when asked, why didn't you take that penalty?
I don't know. That just didn't make sense to me. All right, here's another thing in a 2-minute drill. Miles Sanders, like more than halfway through the game, had 2 carries. and then finally they committed to a run. They got a drive that made it 23-21. Why? I just don't understand. Like, there are a million coaches on these teams. Say, we got to get Miles the ball a little more. We got to do something different to stop the run. Why aren't those adjustments made?
I don't know, Mike. I honestly believe the Eagles went into this game thinking, hey, this team held us to 72 yards rushing last time. We beat them through the air. We threw for well over 300 yards through the air. That's the MO. And sure enough, they come out trying to throw the ball against this Washington defense. They ran the ball a couple of times. They picked up a couple of yards. It wasn't what they thought. And the mindset had to be, we got to go to the air game real quick and jump on this team. I can't think of any other reason why, when you're one of the top running football teams in the National Football League, that you don't even try to establish the run early on against this opponent. I don't get it.
Seth?
Mr. Joyner?
I honestly believe that this football team really wants to throw the ball. At the end of the day, that's what they're after. They want to put the ball in the air. They want to prove that Jalen Hurts can be the guy, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? And sometimes, sometimes you can get a little bit arrogant when you're 8-0, thinking and believing that, hey, you know what? Everything that we do has worked so far. Let's continue to just, do it the way we want to do it. The players are out there. They're getting it done. They'll make it work. But to your point, it doesn't make any kind of sense. It doesn't make it – I mean, Troy Aikman even said tonight.
Yeah, he
You
did.
know,
He
Miles
commented
Sanders
on
doesn't get many opportunities.
Right.
Well, they've had Miles Sanders on the pitch count ever since he got here. He's not going to touch the ball no more than 16, 17 times a game. The only time there's only 2 games that I can remember. One game 2 years ago when he got 28 carries, and when they played against Jacksonville this year, he had 27
carries.
27 carries in that game because it was raining and they couldn't really throw the ball. But why not give this guy more of an opportunity? Why not give Boston Scott more of an opportunity?
I've been
One
saying
carry.
that for 2 years.
At one carry for 5
The
yards
the
tonight.
first game of the season. I mean, the first play of the game tonight, and I'm wondering, you know, I'm looking at Kenneth Gainwell coming out of the backfield, dropping balls on first down. He ran a little over route, ball hit him right in the hands. He drops it. See, Boston Scott's not dropping that ball, and Boston Scott can do a lot of the things that Kenneth Gainwell can do.
Right.
But he can also protect, which Kenneth Gainwell really, really struggles at. So how is it that Kenneth Gainwell has moved up the depth chart in front of Boston Scott? He gets more plays than Boston Scott, but he contributes absolutely nothing.
What are the 2 words? 2 words, D. Draft pick.
He wasn't their draft pick.
Draft pick.
He wasn't their draft pick.
Kenneth
Isn't
Gainwell.
it about production and meritocracy?
No, that's what you play.
Wait a minute.
That's what you play.
It should. That's
Football's changed.
the NFL is based and built upon meritocracy.
You're absolutely right. But
It
that's
should
not,
be.
But that's not the way they do it. They're going to give their draft pick a chance to do it before they're going to
Absolutely.
get
Every
a guy
team
like
does
Okay,
that.
so how many years are you going to watch this guy waller in nothingness? Okay, if you decide that Miles Sanders isn't your guy next year, you're going with Kenneth Gainwell as your guy next year?
Possibly, unless you pick one up in free agency or draft another one. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
That's the
and
way
they're-
they
and
work.
Listen, they'll probably draft another one. So we're not our fortunes are not going to be based on Kenneth Gainwell's career, rest of his career. So all right, one quick thing before
You
we get
said
to John
draft
McMullen.
pick, right? You said draft
well,
pick.
that's why he gets the priority now over Boston Scott. But he's not going to get. They're going to recruit right over him.
Production should be the priority, okay? That at the end of the day, that should always be the priority. If I've got a guy, why is it that Nakobe Dean is not playing? Nakobe Dean is not playing right now because guess what? The other guys are producing over him.
Right.
Now, that's saying a lot because the linebackers have played awful the last 2 games as far as the run game is concerned. But you're talking about he's another draft pick. If that's the case, why isn't he playing in front of Kazir White?
Well, it's because those guys are better players.
Boston Scott is a better player than Kenneth
Here's
Gainwell.
the
Would
bottom-
you not agree?
Here's the bottom
agree.
line. They
I
need,
agree
they
100%.
need somebody better than Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott.
No, listen.
Every team seems to have it. The Eagles don't.
Every single time that you give Boston Scott an opportunity, the kid does
Sometimes.
nothing. Every time. Every time.
I've been screaming for 2
Every
years.
time that you give that kid
why
an
Boston Scott is
opportunity,
not playing.
he produces, okay? They just don't want to give him the opportunity to shine the way in front of Kenneth Gainwell. That's why they went and drafted Kenneth Gainwell.
All right. They're both smaller backs. They need They need to upgrade.
They need a bigger back.
Yeah,
but
they need a bigger
I do
back.
agree. Boston. I've been saying this since last year.
One quick thing before we get to John. You mentioned the turnover. They haven't lost the turnover battle all year. In fact, the stat that they rang up on the TV broadcast, they were the 3rd team since 1940 with a turnover advantage in their first 8 games. It didn't work out in this game, and we didn't think they were going to be undefeated. We just didn't think it was going to be this game, and we didn't think that Washington was going to win the turnover battle. So that's why we're reeling here for a little bit.
Hey, well, listen, they're still plus 14 in the turnover ratio.
Yes. So those turnovers were more of an aberration than
Hey, listen,
anything.
you're going to have games like that from time to time. This is exactly why I say this is why you have 3 phases to professional football or football period. It's what makes football so great because you have an offense, a defense, and a special teams. It's very, very rare that you go into a game where you have all 3 phases that are clicking. At some point in time, one phase or the other is gonna falter, and you're gonna need the other 2 to pick up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And if you have that happen, your chances of winning are exponential. But you can't have both phases sputtering, or 2/3 of the 3/3 sputtering, and expect to win. It just doesn't work that way.
All right, let's get to the man who covered this game down at Lincoln Financial Field. Is he ready?
No,
he's
no.
not ready. Oh, okay. I didn't know that John wasn't with us. All right, so they lose at 32-21. We've got all kinds of stuff that we're talking about as far as whether they're still in that slot as the best team in the NFC, and how good are they overall. There were a lot of people waiting for the Eagles to fall. A lot of people out there were saying they weren't as good as their record would indicate, and so they were handed a gift tonight, all those naysayers.
We've talked about it week in and week out about this team's ability to overcome the few adversities they've had this season. Third quarter has always been that lull period when they seem to go to sleep and allow opponents to get back into the games, except a few. And then, of course, the light switch goes on and they extend themselves and go back to what they do best in that fourth quarter. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you, Mike, when you're not sharp. This team was not sharp tonight. You look at some of the decisions they made, their inability to stop the run. We've talked about this. Jonathan Gannon, his defense cannot make the adjustments to stop the run, number one. Number two, you got guys making mental mistakes. Brandon Graham, Quez Watkins, it happens, okay? We saw a Washington team, and as I said, this Washington team is a much different, energetic team with Taylor Heineke, even though we agree that Taylor Heineke is an habitual backup. But for whatever reason, and I think they look at it as a breath of fresh air compared to what they had to go through with Carson Wentz. But he was 2-1 as a starter coming into this game, and the team was 3-2 in their last 5 games, all decided by 4 points or less. They found a way to get it done tonight. The laws of averages finally flipped over to their side at the expense of the Eagles.
Seth, do they bounce back, or is this the type of loss that they start doubting themselves?
Well, I mean, for the first time tonight, they didn't play, complimentary football. I would stretch to say they haven't played complimentary football the last 2 weeks, okay? Because you can't be successful as a team, especially as a defensive team, if you can't control the run. And they can't control the run. They have no answer for it whatsoever. And it's just going to get worse, from here on. So whether they bounce back, listen, I believe that the offense will bounce back. There's no doubt about it. Jalen Hurts is not going to keep throwing interceptions. Quez Watkins and Dallas Goedert aren't going to come back next week and fumble the ball away. That's not going to happen. But I don't see any remedy, in the interim for Jonathan Gannon and his philosophy about how you play defense. You can't stop the run. You're not aggressive, as far as, bringing pressure. I heard the telecast tonight. They were even talking about, the Commanders and talking about, they're one of the top pressure teams. And they got a boatload of first rounders over there. But yet and still, they blitz almost 25 to 30% of the time.
They do.
I would imagine that the Eagles got to be somewhere, down in the 10 to 13 percentile, and you just can't survive in the NFL being that passive. You just can't. Now, it's worked for them for 8 games, okay? But that monster's reared its ugly head today. We'll see whether it continues to rear its ugly head from a pressure standpoint. But the fact that teams, that they can't stop the run until they get Jordan Davis back, that ain't changing.